I found out that Airbnb in New Orleans is canceled for this New Year's Eve because apparently there's some lawsuit going through the city administration there and a disagreement with Airbnb. So city council decided to suspend and cancel everyone's reservation this weekend. The person that told me this she was pretty upset. She and her husband were already booked, and she said, this was a contract that we had between ourselves and Airbnb. How does this affect us? And I said, well, welcome to the new world of ever increasing government bureaucracy and administrative policy that somehow has spilled over and includes all of us. I mean, something that should just be an administrative procedure or a court proceeding between a municipality and an entity somehow now includes all of us. It's bureaucracy and administrative policy, but doesn't include us and shouldn't include us. And I was reminded in all this the recent story about Kirsten Sinema and that how she saw that really didn't include her. The parties really didn't well identify her role in the scheme of things, representing us. And she left the Democrat Party to become an independent. I'm suggesting that perhaps in the new year we should all consider doing just that, being independent. Welcome to Conservative Coffee Hour. I'm Stanley Smith. At Conservative Coffee Hour, we take a look at all the different narratives and stories, which I think until recently we thought we had a hand in, a part in, a place in, but I think more and more we can see that we're really not included in the story. We saw this with and continue to see it at Twitter with the unfolding revelations of the meddling of the federal government in a private entity and the monitoring of content. I think we all believe in free speech as long as it's not too hateful or inflammatory or illegal. But when the government steps in, it's a different situation because their meddling is a direct infringement of our Second Amendment rights of free speech, that the government should not intervene or interfere. And in a sense, we had that between the FBI and CIA, former employees of each finding posts at Twitter and being in charge of monitoring content, which I guess on paper is not illegal, but might be considered highly inappropriate, especially when those very same people who are monitoring and censoring other people are posting their own inflammatory statements, especially during the pandemic, when they suggested that their hope was that people who voted for Trump would breathe heavily on their grandparents, causing them to contract the COVID virus. I don't think actually, I don't think it's accurate. I don't think it's appropriate. And it's not helpful. And I think as we dig down further into this story, we're probably going to find it was criminal. Recently, I came across a sermon, actually, of Brene Brown at Washington National Cathedral from 2018. And during that sermon, which was before the pandemic and not that long ago, 2018, but she shared her alarm and concern about ever increasing lack of civility in society. And she said, whenever we hear a mean and hateful comment or word about Hillary Clinton, we should be equally alarmed when we hear something mean or hateful about Ivanka Trump or Melania Trump. And I was intrigued by that because even though it's a short time ago, I don't know if anyone could be that generous in this time because the room for toleration has grown so tiny. I don't know if it includes Ivanka Trump or Melania Trump or many of us anymore. It's part of what is dehumanizing. And Renee talked about the fact that isolation leads to dehumanization, and that we're all victims of that. We're victims of that when we perpetrate it and when it's directed toward us. We all think we're pretty good at seeing and identifying evil, but we have to be aware that evil is looking at us back. And when it sees us as plenty evil. Good and evil is actually our paradigm. It's not God's. And we're trying to manage this by getting rid of all these supposed bad people. And we do that on both sides. It's not helpful, and it's not going to end well. Many see Trump as evil, and they also see everyone who supports him as evil and in many ways subhuman. And that's That's not helpful. I think it becomes more and more evident that apparently the FBI and CIA saw and continues to see Mr. Trump as a significant and serious threat. But they should have come clean to us, the American people. If that was truly a concern, if they truly thought he was criminally negligent and dangerous, they should have just shared that with us. Protecting us by going around our backs and subverting our rights and privileges was not the right approach. We elect people to represent us, not to protect us. Growing up in my home district in Rockford, Illinois, in the 16th Congressional District, we had Representative Lynn Martin as our representative. And later she went on to be Transportation Secretary for George Bush. But while she served as our representative, the legislation for a national speed limit of 55 miles an hour came up and was passed. And my father was particularly annoyed by that because he said, in our district, the majority of people were not in favor of the 55 mile an hour speed limit. And when Lynn was confronted with that fact, she said, well, it was going to save lives. My father said that might be very well and fine, saving lives, but that's not what she's elected to do. She was elected to represent us. COVID was a situation that was also framed in the context of saving lives, similar to anti-smoking before that, which was also framed in the idea of saving lives. To date, we see statistical information that actually, since smoking has been greatly decreased in this country, the incidence of lung cancer is almost exactly the same. More and more, I think we can see that the leading cause of death in this country is death. Our only problem here is that we just continue to be alive. That's what's going wrong here. Some reason we just keep on being alive. Our humanity is given to us by God, and no one can take that from us. They can try to dehumanize us by calling us something less than human. They can call us racist or white supremacist. We are told we need to tolerate each other, but I think we need to do better than that. I think we need to be in communion with each other. We sometimes have the misnomer that the majority, being in communion with everyone who's like-minded and agrees with us, is the best way, but that's not communion either. We also sometimes label ourselves as Republican or Democrat, but we can see how that's worked out. Perhaps the best approach in the new year is to consider being independent. If you would like to join us at Conservative Coffee Hour is every Saturday at 10 a.m. Central Time on Zoom. I will include my email in the description of this video. I'll be happy to send you an invitation. And I look forward to seeing you very, very soon.